thanks for everybody for being here today. I wanted to come out to California to demonstrate the commitment that we have at the federal level, working together to address the various serious situation that we have ongoing with the drought here. As David set the context for some of the hydrology, I would just note we are tracking below 1977, the previous driest year at this point in time. We're tracking substantially below it. And for context, further context, we had California's population was, I think, 22 million in 1977, where it's 38 million now. So we have a more significant drought with a lot more people to serve. Yesterday I came out and we visited Folsom Dam, met with some of the M&I contractors we have up there. We're from Folsom, San Juan Water District, and Roseville. Talked about a lot of the issues that they're facing, so it's incredibly complex. We're working very closely, not just amongst ourselves as federal agencies with the state, but also with our contractors and trying to get as much clarity to the situation as possible. And that's really what I wanted to talk about a little bit more and describe actions that we're taking right now that will provide water immediately during this drought-stricken year. Decisions that we can make now that provide some clarity and certainty as we move forward over the next couple months, which is helpful for the water community in California. And also, we want to make it clear that we want to continue to invest in good water management efficiency projects, conservation efforts to build long-term drought resiliency here in California. So I wanted to touch on all those items. Once again, I just want to thank also the representatives here from the many federal agencies and the State Department of Water Resources for being here, demonstrating the united front, and I look forward to hearing from all of my colleagues on the things and actions that they are undertaking. The framework which we're working in at the federal level is the National Drought Resilience Partnership. This is a partnership amongst the federal agencies that's called for in the President's Climate Action Plan, and it allows us to try and link all the tools we have at the federal level, starting with weather information, forecasting information, getting the available information out so that people can understand the implications of drought and plan for it. Moving from that information, help plan drought resiliency efforts, and also to have a framework for making long-term investments and building an ongoing mechanism for us to better address water needs in the future. The National Drought Resilience Partnership is a nationwide effort, but I can tell you right now, all of its energy is focused on California at this point in time. And so this is ground central for this partnership to demonstrate how we can bring these efforts to California. One of the announcements I wanted to make today was the finalization of Reclamation's 2014 Central Valley Project water plan. We've been doing a water plan over the last several years since we had the 3-year drought, 2008-2009 into 2010. We wanted to continue to clarify the actions that we can take to improve operations, to help facilitate the movement of water amongst partners, to work closely, more unified with the California Department of Water Resources. But based on last year's situation where the things dried up after the turn of the new year in 2013, it was clear as we embarked upon the summer months that we were in the middle of a drought. At that point in time, Regional Director David Murillo convened a lot of the stakeholders with different interests in CVP water flows, started discussing new actions that we could take. We released the draft water plan in the fall of last year. We're finalizing that plan today. We obviously want to continue along the theme of having maximum flexibility in our operations and improvements in those operations to yield additional water supplies. We want to streamline the process for water transfers within the state. We want to continue to invest in conservation opportunities, and we want to work closely with the state, not just the Department of Water Resources, but the State Water Resources Control Board. So there's a lot of actions identified in that plan that we're finalizing today. I would just note a lot of those actions are premised on some level of hydrology and precipitation that allows at least modest water supply operations. Right now, we're down, given the water supply situation, to be focused on health and public health and safety needs. And so a lot of the value of these actions that are described in the water operation plans will depend upon the hydrology. But it's good to make those decisions right now. It's good to provide that clarity so that when the drought does begin to break a little bit and we get to some level of water operations, we're not left trying to make those decisions on the fly. So we think this fits into the idea of providing some operational certainty. A couple of things I just want to mention specifically about the water operation plans. Within the plan, we describe our rescheduling guidelines and the fact that we are moving forward, as we informed our contractors last week, of honoring the rescheduling guidelines that facilitated conservation actions, deferred deliveries last year, so that those water contractors south of the Delta who rely on San Luis Reservoir as well as Milliken Lake will have that water available that they created through their own actions, and that's identified in the CBP water plan. We talked a little bit about a decision we can make now. Reclamation is later today sending a letter over to National Marine Fisheries Service identifying this year as a critical dry year designation, which triggers certain actions in the biological opinion, a 1-to-1 inflow to export ratio, which once again will help later on this spring provide some certainty for our water users on what the parameters will be for operations of our project facilities. Lastly, as I mentioned, we work very closely with the state, and I think Director Cowan is going to talk more closely about this, the temporary urgency petition that was filed with the State Water Resources Control Board, which resulted in the order last week, which was described in a press conference last week. That is one of the actions that is identified in the water plan, and we're happy that we move forward quickly in a close partnership, all hands on deck. I wanted to express my appreciation to the key agencies working together, NOAA Fisheries, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Reclamation, California Department of Water Resources, California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Some good decisions made on how to implement the board's order on a very short order. One of the other items I wanted to talk about today is to announce that we are making a funding opportunity announcement available today to the public. This is an agricultural water efficiency and water management improvement program that the Bureau of Reclamation has been running with NRCS at the Department of Agriculture. We've been doing this for 3 years now. This year, in the face of the drought conditions we're facing, both Reclamation and NRCS are greatly increasing the investments in this program. Carlos Suarez from NRCS will talk a little bit about the accomplishments we've had the last couple of years, but that funding opportunity announcement is being made available today. I think the time frame for proposals for grants in that program are due March 24th. The grant opportunities available from Reclamation are up to $1 million project, so we will be looking for some very good projects working with the stakeholders and the agricultural community. This is available to entities in California, agricultural water districts, Indian tribes, anybody with really good water efficiency proposals, and we look forward to receiving those. And Reclamation making our investment decisions, which will trigger work with NRCS also, so we can look at delivery systems, improvements in the efficiency of delivery systems, as well as on-farm improvements. We also last Friday announced an agreement amongst the parties to the San Joaquin River Restoration Settlement that I just wanted to briefly highlight. Once again, this agreement is intended to save water immediately by terms of the settlement in a critically dry year such as this. Restoration flows would cease as of March 1st. Through an agreement of the parties, we have moved that up a month to save approximately 13,000 acre-feet in Milliken Lake that will be available to the Bryant water districts for public health and safety purposes. We're doing this in a way that I think also furthers the restoration program, allows us to do some studying on how to move fish through the system. And so collaboration in the face of this drought is no more evident than that particular agreement that we announced last Friday. And finally, I know that there's a lot of interest in Reclamation's allocation announcement. I know the state last week made their announcement on the state water project. And obviously, we're going to be at very low levels in the Central Valley project. And we are looking at the order from the State Water Resources Control Board, seeing how that affects our operations. In addition to folks south of the Delta, we have folks on the American River and north of the Delta, so we're running the calculations numbers so that we can announce in approximately 2 weeks' time frame the initial allocations for all CDP water contract holders. So just wanted to point out that that's the time frame when we will make our official initial allocation announcement.
I'm not sure who to address this question to, but I saw some text addressing talking about $14 million in funding. Is this part of the federal funding that was announced yesterday by Secretary Islak, or is that new money? If you could clarify that for me first.
This is Mike Connor with the Bureau of Reclamation. That is not part of the announcement that Secretary Vilsack made yesterday. These are additional resources made through a partnership between the Bureau of Reclamation and the Natural Resources Conservation Service. And we anticipate Reclamation will provide up to $7 million in grants, and that will be matched by NRCS as part of the funding opportunity announcement being made available today. So it's a separate program with additional resources for California.
Yes, I'm Mike Gardner with the UT San Diego newspaper in San Diego. I'm not sure if anyone can answer this question, but we're hearing a lot about grants for farmers and conserve water, but we're not hearing anything about special assistance to farm workers, third-party impacts to communities. Can anyone address that issue when we will see any kind of assistance for those people?
Through the, once again, Mike Connor, Bureau of Reclamation, through the National Drought Resilience Partnership, we have been having conversations with the state of California and the governor's office related to operational issues right now. So we've been focused a lot on water supply. We have also been coordinating at the federal level with other agencies not involved in water operations to talk about the relief programs that we know will be necessary come this year. So as to the timing and when and those specifics of those programs, I don't have those details, but it has been very much part of the conversation, recognizing that once you get past water supply, there are obvious economic impacts that need to be addressed. And also, as we move on this season, obviously there's fire risk. There's just many levels of coordination that we're going to need to undertake.
If I may follow up, which agency would take the lead on assisting communities and farm workers?
Well, some of the agencies, I'm not familiar with those specific programs, but certainly part of the conversation has included entities within the Department of Commerce, FEMA, and I think USDA has some relief programs too. So I know those folks have been talking about the programs that they can offer.
Hi, I saw in the plan you guys released today that there's up to 50,000 acre-feet of benefit from a few different measures regarding Old and Middle River Index, and it's an incidental take for Delta smelt. I was just curious about how that works, because is it just a recalculation of how those things are measured, and how would that result in more water?
I would just absolutely agree with the point that you made, Mark, with respect. Those are improvements in operations that we've identified as part of this plan. They're intended to increase efficiencies so that we can maintain our responsibilities under the biological opinions that we operate under the water quality standards we operate under, in a year where there's water available to provide through the Central Valley Project and State Water Project. This is not that year right now. We're looking at bare minimum levels of water supply at this point in time. Certainly we hope the hydrology changes and improves somewhat, and we want to be prepared with those improved operations when it does. But for right now, there's not an immediately additional supply to be had.
Question for Mr. Cotter. There's a bill before Congress today that would make changes to the Endangered Species Act. I was interested to read in your release that so far, at least, the Delta smelt have been a non-factor in the exports from the Delta?
That's correct, and I think Regional Director Lil Hefner made that point. We have not had any water supply restrictions on our operations due to the biological opinions of this water year. In fact, I think we haven't had any restrictions related to Delta smelt since April of last year. So we've been operating to the water quality standards up until this point in time and other obligations that we have, but we haven't restricted the pumping operations yet due to the Endangered Species Act.
So in your opinion, what would the bill before, how much good would the bill before Congress do in helping relieve the California drought?
Well, I think from that standpoint, to the extent that the bill would provide exemptions to the Endangered Species Act, et cetera, it would not provide additional water supply under the hydrology that presently exists.
Would you see any positive aspects in that bill that could help?
Well, I haven't gone through the bill thoroughly, and they took the bill directly to the floor of the House of Representatives and not through committee where we could testify on that bill. But the administration, I think, as of today, has indicated publicly that it opposes the bill, and primarily because our goal in this, making it through this drought year, is to take action that can provide water or relief immediately in the short term, while still maintaining the ability to work very closely with California on its co-equal goals of improving water supply reliability overall, while still maintaining, protecting, and conserving the Bay Delta environment. And that bill does not satisfy those goals. And so for that reason, the administration, similar to Governor Brown, is opposing the enactment of that bill.
This is for Mr. Connor. You mentioned in your remarks that it was clear last summer that we were entering a period of drought. A lot of people, we're hearing criticism. I'm George Warren from KXTV in Sacramento. We're hearing criticism that the Bureau failed to act on that knowledge sooner, despite warnings from some of the Folsom Lake stakeholders regarding the American River system and Folsom Lake releases. Can you respond to that, please?
Yes, I saw the story about concerns about our operations at Folsom. I would just say we've operated under the requirements that we have on Folsom. So Folsom is part of the overall Central Valley project. We use the facility. We have to maintain certain releases for protection of the fish. We need to maintain certain releases for downstream water users, and we need to maintain certain releases for water quality standards. It's part of that overall system. So from that standpoint, we continue to make releases last year, and that we needed to ensure that we were in compliance with all those standards. And as we entered into the fall, we ramped down those releases to conserve storage as much as possible. So we worked very closely with those contractors who take water from Folsom. We had a meeting with them yesterday. I think it was a very good exchange, and so we've, I think, done what we could to preserve storage. I certainly didn't hear any complaints in the meeting yesterday about our operations. And moreover, I think we're looking at contingency plans this year to the extent that we may need a temporary pumping station later on this year to ensure that we can maintain those deliveries. So it's a delicate balance with a lot of requirements downstream, but we are cognizant of the needs of those water users supplied from Folsom, and we're working very close to make sure we can keep deliveries.
Well, those modifications are being made now, but could they have been done several months ago to prevent the dire situation at Folsom?
Those would have required some relief from the standards, and I don't think there was an opportunity at that point in time. And so from that standpoint, we operated as we needed to and maintained conserved storage as soon as we could.
To sum up, big picture, what kind of assistance you're announcing today and who it's for?
I think it goes back to my beginning comments. We want to provide access to information so people understand the nature of this drought, the depth, and how long we anticipate to last, and programs available to deal with that. You've heard some of that today. We wanted to announce actions that we're taking operationally that I think have meaningful increases to water supply right now, such as the cessation of flows on San Joaquin River and the saving of 13,000 acre feet. We want to provide some clarity as to operations over the next couple months as part of our CDP water plan, those actions. And we want to continue to make investments through yesterday's announcement, USDA made, and today's announcement with Reclamation and NRCS on good investments that we need to make to increase conservation, water efficiency, so that we build long-term drought resiliency in California. So the message is all of these things have benefit, all of these actions have benefit, but more importantly, we have an all-hands-on-deck approach at the federal level in close coordination with our partners at the state in recognition of the many impacts that are happening in California. And this is probably the start of a whole series of announcements and actions that we will continue to look to make as we address the serious situation in California.
And the action specifically today, there's a whole bunch of them, right? It's not just the one, the San Joaquin, and then, but a lot of these, if there's no water, they don't make much difference.
Well, some of them don't. Some of them are decisions that we're making in the event that the hydrology changes and we have an opportunity to maintain, to increase operations for water supply. But we think they're important to announce today, and some of those do have meaning as of today. The rescheduling an announcement that we made with our contractors last week, providing them certainty as to their access to water that's currently stored in the reservoirs, and as mentioned, San Joaquin. So it's a whole range of actions that have benefits now and in the midterm, and getting in even to next year and some of the conservation projects that we hope to undertake.